Call the Winton Woods City School District Board of Education meeting to order. Today is Monday, July 28th, 2014. Would you please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Seymour, would you call the roll?
Mrs. Miranda?
Present.
Mr. Pennycuff?
Present.
Mr. Cleary?
Here.
Dr. Johnson?
Present.
Mrs. Burns?
Here. Thank you. We have two requests to address the board. First, we'll have Ms. Maria Walter.
Hi, good evening. I would like to know if there has been any further developments in a tutoring program. I brought up the last time the perhaps the possibility of having local businesses as giving back into the school system and perhaps establishing some kind of a grant. So if you have to pay additional teaching time, it will not have to come necessarily from the school system, but from a grant. And location could be probably all housed in the white building in Green Hills. Number two, I would like to thank Madam President for having the open meeting with Forest Park Council. And my wish list is that we will have the same and could be achieved with Green Hills. I have been named the liaison from Green Hills for the last 3 years. And I was moved and I was marveled of the open exchange of ideas that I witnessed there. I also want to thank Madam President for allowing me to bring a guest the next time. I will be bringing Mr. Moore, the mayor of Green Hills. And third and last, I wish to thank Ms. Miranda for the insight, having said that she would like for the ESL teachers being a part of the Parent Teachers Association meeting. In her approach to bring this to all the families to be together in this of the Winton Wood system, it will bring in that additional component of the X percentage of Hispanics or French speakers that form part of the Winton Woods school system. I also would recommend that perhaps an invitation could be drafted so the parents could pick that up either when they're picking up their schedule or an open house. And I would be willing to do the translation at not cost to the system, both in Spanish and in French. We have also a large population from Africa that are French speakers and from Cameroon, etc. So I would be willing to do that. I don't know who the new member for the new president for the PDOA person is, but if that's the person necessary to relay this message to, I wish you would. I'll be working with whoever it is, and I hope whoever he or she is would be a parent to the system, would be invested in the system, having children in the system. Otherwise, it would feel kind of awkward. And that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Walter. Secondly, we have Thad Willard.
My name is Thad Willard. I live in Green Hills. Suspect all of you are aware now that the state legislature in the very recent past has just passed section 3313.6022 of the Ohio Revised Code, which relates to release time courses in religious instruction. I've given a copy of this to each board member, and it becomes effective September 11th of this year. And it looks like it's 2 or 3 pages. It's relatively simply written. It basically follows an Ohio's United States Supreme Court case in the last 10 years that sets out guidelines for released time instruction for religious purposes, which was constitutionally permissible. And what it does is it basically requires that the sponsoring entity, which would be a church, a religious organization, maintain attendance records and makes them available to the school district for the student attends, Transportation is the responsibility of the sponsoring organization. It's not the responsibility of the school system. And in fact, there's a section in here that excludes any liability on the school system for transportation to and from or what happens there. That's solely the responsibility of the sponsoring organization. So we don't have to worry about, gee, we're going to increase our liability insurance funds because of this. No, you have statutory immunity. No public funds are to be expended, but it's not anticipated under this statute that it would be. It's some restrictions. Obviously, they're common sense. No student may be released from a core curriculum subject course to attend a religious instruction course. That's just basic common sense. But if it's considered elective, which this would be, you can fit a time in the child's schedule, or the child can fit it in the schedule when that elective will be taking place and have to make his own arrangements to get to and from. And that place, whatever it is, will have to make arrangements and to ensure that attendance is taken, etc. Under the statute, 2 credits are permitted for religious instruction. These would be considered electives. And so one member of the board asked, well, how do we grade these? Well, I would think since there's no restriction in the statute, you grade them the same way you would any other grade. It's what the letter grade is. If they learned the subject matter, great. They get the grade. If they didn't, it's going to be what comes out. This is not going to be these are not designed to be cream puff courses that you take just to spend time away from school. They're supposed to be designed to have some substance, religious substance to them, whatever religious background that might be. That's up to the parent and the child. How's it going to be assessed? There has to be a course syllabus. Now, anyone who's taught religious education shouldn't have any trouble coming up with a course syllabus at the high school level. It's common sense, and if you don't have it already, you can draw one up. It's not that complicated if you know what you're doing. Which comes up to the next question, what are the qualifications? It says the qualifications, the assessments are be similar to that of qualifications for other teachers in the district. To me, that means, and the keyword is similar, that means you need someone in there that has a degree either in divinity, theology, religious instruction, something of that nature. We're talking about a college degree, a 4-year degree, because you can't teach unless you have a 4-year degree anywhere. So I think that the de minimis you would need, whoever is going to offer this is going to need someone who has been certified as a accredited school in Ohio or some other state in the North Central, whatever. And actually North Central does certify religious schools. Not all of them are certified, but it does do that. At least it has in the past.
Thank you for your comment. I have to keep you at your 3 minutes, but I'm interested in what you have to say. So if you have some additional documentation.
That's basically what it is. It's nuts and bolts. And the reason I'm bringing it up, its effective date is September 11th. So if you're going to do anything, you got to do something fairly quickly, get the information out to the parents. Now, you do have a community relations officer that's on staff. I think he or she, I think it's a she, could certainly notify the local churches. And I think Dr. Weir sent a email out to a number of people of some local churches to see if they have the facilities to do it, inclination to do it, and people with a background to do it. Once you say this, it should be a policy, and you will allow 2 hours credit for this, and that's the board responsibility. Once you do that, the ball's now in the court of the organizations. They're going to step up to the plate or not. But once you say, yeah, we're going to allow 2 credits, you've done your job.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay, approval of minutes.
Madam President, I move to approve the minutes of the June 9th work session, the July 14 work session, and the June 23 regular meeting.
Heard a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any questions? Mr. Seymour?
Mrs. Miranda,
Aye.
Mr. Pennicuick?
Aye.
Mr. Cleary?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Burns?
Aye. Treasurer's report.
Well, we closed the year for last year with total, we'll just address the general fund of revenues of $43.9 million. We had total expenditures of $40.8 million, improving our cash position by about $3 million with a 5% savings in our budget. We had an increase of $1.5 million for 14 over your fiscal year 13, of which 700,000 of that mostly was for your increased support for your technology program and your infrastructure, and then 600,000 in additional tuition. So basically, 3 areas made the significant adjustment for the increase for last year. So the general fund ended a balance with approximately $13.4 million for last year's operations. Also, before you have the investment report, and for the month of June, we made $1,983 and $19,571 for the year. So, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Do we need a motion?
Usually you submit the report for
I'm running-
audit and
I'm
then,
running a little blind.
and then approve the investment report.
Thank you.
Treasurer's report will be referred then for audit. Treasurer's recommendations.
For the
Investment
investments.
report?
Yeah.
Okay. I move that we approve the investment report as submitted for June 2014.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, Mr. Seymour?
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye.
Mr. Pennicuick?
Aye.
Mr. Cleary?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Burns?
Aye. 5.02, resolutions.
I'm basically asking for a resolution to get permission from the Board of Education to form a financial education association with the Cincinnati Police Federal Credit Union. As you know, last year we started a health savings account in the district, and then we contracted with the Cincinnati Police Federal Credit Union to handle those accounts for your employees who chose to take the health savings. The benefit for the district was no monthly cost for those accounts, and also the benefit for the credit union was obviously marketing exposure. Currently, and then during those negotiations, we would like to expand their services for educational aspects for the children and get benefits for our students. Currently, as you know, most credit unions are chartered only for employees. Obviously, our students are not employees of ours. So one of the first things that I had requested is that they set up accounts for our student workers who are also students of ours, free of charge, and provide transportation to them to and from the bank. So with that to start to take place, we need to form some type of a education association with the credit union, which will allow their charter to be expanded to benefit our students and our families of those students with in this classroom for financial literacy, possible scholarships, as they tend to look for career paths, possible student loans. As we know, we're getting benefits from the credit union, and they would also like to market their product out to our membership. But before we could do that and get benefit for our students, we need to form an education association. So the first will be to ask for a resolution to form that association, and then secondly, I will ask you to approve the bylaws for the formation of that association, in which we will appoint an executive board to oversee that association, comprised of Winton Woods employees and 2 credit union employees.
Thank you. Any questions? Is there a motion?
I'll motion to approve the resolution for Winton Woods City School District Financial Education Association as well as the bylaws.
A second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Seymour, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye.
Mr. Pennicuick?
Aye.
Mr. Cleary?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Burns?
Aye.
If I could please ask that you do them separately,
Oh.
that will be great.
I'll also motion to approve the bylaws of the Winton Woods City School District Financial Education Association.
And a second.
Thank you. Mrs.
Madam President, I
Miranda?
would just, before we vote, I'd like to thank the treasurer for his creativity and persistence in finding what would seem to me an unusual relationship. I wouldn't have thought of it, but then I'm not the district treasurer. But I look forward to the benefits that our students will have from this education, additional element to their education and the services. So thank you for bringing it to this point.
Sure. Dr. Holden's even looked at the educational program that they offer in the classroom.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I did have one, Mr. Seymour, in looking at the officers and the terms. I noticed they would all start at the same time, and they're about 3-year terms. So is there something that will be put in place to establish some continuity in the board, as opposed to all of the offices coming up due for replacement possibly at the same time?
I don't have an answer to that at this
Okay.
point, sorry. I would assume since we're establishing at this point, I see what you mean by staggered terms.
But we can modify it, or the officers can modify it later.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for that sort of.
Any further questions? Hearing none, Mr. Seymour, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye.
Mr.
I don't have
Pennicuick?
anything on that.
Mr. Cleary?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs.
Aye.
Burns?
Aye. Thank
I'll
you.
respond to anything. Sometimes late, but
Superintendent reports. Mr. Smith?
Yes, Madam President, 6.01, discussion of retire, rehire.
I have no idea.
There's another one. The resolution comes up in 7.01.
Okay.
So we can move forward.
Let's move to 6.02.
The new and revised board policies, these are all first reads. FMLA, student health screening, student accidents, graduation requirements, anti-harassment, bullying and other forms of aggressive behavior, disposition of real property, personal property, animals on district property, environmental health and safety issues, wellness, and the summary of policies for 7/28, the board meeting.
Thank you. Superintendent's recommendations.
There's a resolution to approve, the recommendation, excuse me, is to approve the resolution to rehire, retire as presented. Would you like me to read the resolution,
I
Madam
would.
President? Whereas Janice K. Bell has served steadfastly in the public schools of Ohio for more than 20 years as an intervention specialist, whereas Janice K. Bell has made contributions to the state teachers retirement system continuously throughout the service as an educator in Ohio and is now eligible to receive STRS benefits based on her prior service and contribution, and whereas Section 3307.35 of the Ohio Revised Code permits a teacher or administrator to initiate service retirement benefits while remaining in the employment of his school district, provided 60 days lapse between retirement date and reemployment date. And whereas his Board of Education is desirous of retaining the services of Janice K. Bell as an intervention specialist and believes that retaining Janice K. Bell as an intervention specialist to be highly beneficial to the district by maintaining continuity in the special education program, avoiding the costs and uncertainties of a new intervention specialist search, and most importantly, allowing the district to continue to benefit from the extensive knowledge, experience, and leadership abilities of Janice K. Bell. Be it therefore resolved as follows. to reemploy Janice K. Bell as an intervention specialist commencing the 2014-15 school year at step 0 of the teacher salary schedule with board-provided benefits. This contract of employment will automatically expire at the end of 2014-15 school year without notice of non-renewal. It is found and determined that all formal action of this Board of Education concerning or related to the adoption of this resolution was adopted in an open meeting, and all deliberations of this board that resulted in such action were adopted in meetings open to the public in compliance with all applicable requirements of the Ohio Revised Code. Adopted this 28th day of July 2014.
Madam President, I move to approve the resolution to rehire a retiree as presented.
I will second that.
Second. Any questions?
The resolution made it very clear that when we do a retire and rehire, we rehire the person at the first step.
Yes, sir.
So we're getting basically we're paying a salary of a brand new person that's just graduated college that's coming into the system for somebody that's got 20 years experience. So it's a win-win for us.
I agree.
I have a process question, not related to the merit of this one at all, but I'm a little confused. It used to be my understanding that to do a rehire, we had to discuss it 1 month and vote it at a subsequent meeting, not at the same meeting. Is that no longer, are we ready to take action?
Ms.
Or
Wilson?
or do we need it?
We advertised it in June to the public, and we took out an ad in the newspaper, so we satisfied the procedural requirements under the Ohio Revised Code.
Okay, that's a little different than advertising it is not the same as bringing it up at a board meeting, is it?
Well, this is the discussion, so if you wanted to discuss it, it would have been tonight.
Oh, right now is the discussion.
Earlier, under the.
5 minutes ago was the discussion.
Of the opportunity to discuss it.
Okay. So, just to be clear, we no longer have to do it a month in advance,
No.
the step 1, and we're ready for step 2 tonight. Okay,
We had to advertise it and run it in a newspaper.
okay,
And
okay.
then, I apologize, but it's like 60 days before the reemployment, or 30 days before the reemployment.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'm ready to vote. Thank
She's
you.
not coming back until August 18th.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions, comments? Mr. Seymour?
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye.
Mr. Pennicuick?
Aye.
Mr. Cleary?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Burns?
Aye. Mr. Smith?
Yes, recommendations to approve the personnel schedules as presented, resignations and retirements, certificated employment, which is B, support staff, Schedule C, extra duty and supplemental employment, Schedule D.
May I hear a motion?
I recommend to approve the personnel schedules as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
No questions, Mr. Seymour?
I have some questions. Mr. Smith, could you just give us, the board, a kind of a quick synopsis of what's our vetting process? I did some counts on numbers between last month and this month, and we've got a lot of new hires from a lot of folks that have left the district
Yes, sir.
or retired. We've got roughly 42 just in this packet that appear to be new hires. What's our vetting process when we post a job and we hire? What is it that we do?
I'm going to refer it to Ms. Wilson.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Our process is basically, we post all of our openings either on the internet through our Winton and also if we're looking for outside people in addition to our internal people, we post it on AppleTrack, which is an online system, which is part of a consortium. From there, we review resumes. All administrators have access to it, and we can review resumes. And there's a questionnaire, a lengthy questionnaire, where we can decide whom we want to interview. From there, we select candidates, and building level teams meet, and that they're always led by at least one administrator. So there's an administrator on every building level team, and they interview the candidates, usually with people either from the department or the grade level, or people that will have to work directly with the candidate. During that process, we have some canned questions, but we also let the teams come up with their own questions if they want. We just require that they ask the same questions of every candidate to ensure that, that there's equal opportunity in the process. And also during that process, we will, if it's a teaching position, we will usually ask the candidate to teach a mock lesson or provide some sort of evidence of their teaching ability. And it could, sometimes if it's in the summer, when there are no students around, it might be as simple as a lesson plan and talking about the lesson plan as if you were teaching it. When we have students around, we will sometimes ask the candidates to actually teach a lesson to a classroom of students. From there, the building level teams, they rank order, or they give feedback about the candidate, and the administrator actually makes a recommendation to human resources. And from there, we do a reference check. We ask all of the administrators to check at least 3 references, unless the administrator has worked directly with the person. So if it's, if it's someone that, say, Mr. Seymour has worked directly with, and they're coming to his shop, that we may defer to his, recommendation. But we ask for 3 reference checks. The building administrators turn those reference checks in along with the feedback from the committee. And from there, I meet with every candidate that is recommended. And I've met with all of the candidates that appear on the sheet, and I meet with them and talk to them. And from there, we make an offer of employment if everything checks out. From time to time, if Mr. Smith is available, or if Dr. Holden's available, I will ask them to step in and meet with them. Nothing extensive, but to at least meet with them, and they'll do that from time to time as their schedules permit. Do you have any questions?
Is there a component of the vetting process that looks for evidence that the teacher can produce at the level that whatever our expectation is there a component to that?
Part of the reference check that we do, we're actually looking for evidence of things like character, work ethic, as well as their pedagogy, or their their ability to teach. And we also ask for evidence of past performance. And sometimes if there's questions, we can and will request personnel, make a public records request for a personnel file. So if there's something controversial about a person, or if we're not sure, but someone is, really wanting to hire someone, but maybe there's some information that we are, just leery of, or want to question, we have the right, and we have in the past made public records requests for the entire personnel record. The challenge with that, when you have 53 positions to fill, is sometimes that's time consuming. But we have done that, and we do that from time to time.
In addition to that, the Human Resources Department is working on another plan, not just for the teachers that leave, but for the teachers that stay. What makes you stay? What makes you stay invested in the work? I think so many times we worry about the people who leave, but we don't really give a lot of consideration to the people that stay. So this is just a new step that Ms. Wilson and Ms. Montgomery have come up with, and I'm excited about it.
It'll be great data to have.
Yes, sir.
I have just one other question on that subject. I noticed that in some of our new hires, they're going to be brand new teachers. So how do we vet a brand new teacher? Because they may not have had, other than their student teaching, they really haven't had any measurable item that you can look at to say, predictably, this teacher has been able to get this result. So how do we do that?
We do a couple of things. We will talk to the supervising teacher that supervised that individual in their student teaching. That's good feedback. And sometimes we will look at their portfolios if they have them available. And the other piece is, once they're hired, Every new teacher is observed 3 times. Ohio law requires every teacher in the district, except for accomplished or skilled teachers, to be observed 2 times. Because we offer a 1-year limited contract to all new teachers, 4 years in a row before they're then given a 5-year contract, we have 4 opportunities to observe new teachers 3 times. And at the end of each year, we have the right to non-renew a new teacher, so that's another step in the vetting process to make sure that by the time we get to year 5, where we're offering a more extensive contract, that we're very comfortable saying, here's a 5-year contract, and we recommend you for a long-term employment contract with the district. So there are safeguards, and we also have the informal walkthroughs that we talked about when we were adopting our evaluation process. So principals and people from the curriculum department, administrators throughout the district are in and out of classrooms observing people. We have a resident educator program, which is a program where all teachers who have their first resident educator program, which is a 4-year, resident educator license, which is a 4-year license to teach. They go through a very extensive mentoring program where they're paired with a mentor, and it's state prescribed. So there are so many requirements that it's almost unbearable. But it's wonderful because it really fleshes out some strengths and weaknesses and gives them growth targets. And it blends nicely with our OTES evaluation system. Anything else?
Thank you. Sorry to put you on this.
That's okay.
She likes that, sir.
Mr. Smith, I have another question for you, though. I'm trying to look at, and you may not know it, you may have to get back with the board, but I was trying to look at our teacher count. Is our teacher count up, or is our teacher count down from last year? Since we've had quite a few teachers that had apparently been interviewing somewhere else, and they were last-minute notices that they intended to go somewhere else. Are we about equal where we were, or are we above?
Well, I do know that in the intermediate building alone, there were 15 new teachers last year. And so I don't believe that we have that many. The other thing that the board needs to realize is our teachers are on a step system. And the step system is designed that it's not based on performance. So the step system is going to dissolve. It is not going to live at Winton Woods, because you can't be increased just because you came another year. So when that starts to dissolve, people may get excited. I won't be, but I think that it needs to be based on some kind of merit, some kind of system that you have achieved something and your children are achieving, and not just because you came back another year. Some teachers made a decision late because the superintendent was not going to restore the steps because there was a freeze for several years. Some teachers believe that when the steps were restored, if there had been a freeze for 4 years, you would move 4 steps. That's not right. That doesn't mean anything to me as far as academics are concerned. There has to be some kind of response to how are my children doing academically in order for the steps to really work. So some teachers made a decision to go to other districts because those steps would be honored. And those steps are equivalent to dollars and cents.
Additional questions, comments?
Madam President, I'm so sorry that I'm monopolizing because I read it all, so I have
That's
a lot
fine.
of questions.
That's fine.
Mr. Smith, and this will be my last question. I noticed that we seem to be switching. We're going to have some in-school suspension assistants that we didn't have before. In the past, those were our
Building subs.
Our building subs,
Yes.
the assigned building subs.
Having the pleasure of being a principal before, it's like the most difficult job in the world. When you have a building sub and that building sub is watching an in-school suspension room and a teacher becomes ill or a teacher calls in late, you will use that building sub to be a teacher. And it pulls them away from the original assignment of being an in-school suspension monitor. That's the difference.
Okay. It seems like a much better way to effectively manage the resource.
Absolutely.
So,
Because the buildings more than likely can teach.
Additional questions or comments? Seems to be a hot topic. I've lost count. Was there a motion and a second? It
Yes.
was a while ago. I thought so. Okay,
Dr.
just checking.
Thompson, seconded by Mr. Cleary.
Okay, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye.
Mr. Pennicuick?
Aye.
Mr. Cleary?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Burns?
Aye. 7.03.
Madam President, I am truly excited about 7.03. Coming from a uniform school, I think that sometimes the public doesn't understand the difference between a uniform policy and dress code. And so we have been very clear to reestablish ourselves that we have a uniform policy. The dress code, the policy changes along the way, but it stipulates occasionally, only when announced, building administrators may permit the wearing of district-approved spirit wear bearing the Winton Woods name, colors, logo, and mascot in connection with or instead of uniform shirts, sweatshirts, and sweaters. And then additionally, occasionally building administrators may permit the wearing of even more dressy clothes when it would be appropriate for special events such as students giving presentations, meeting with school guests, attending public functions, participating in photography. One of the things that we were very, very clear about, and the word occasionally is the optimal word. You can't have spirit wear that lasts 5 and 6 weeks, otherwise you don't have a uniform policy. And I think that with uniforms being affordable, it gives our parents some flexibility that you don't have to come up with all the latest trends and the latest wear. Some of those trends and that latest wear keeps kids out of school. And so we want to make it very, very clean and very, very flexible so that our kids come to school every day.
that clarification really does help. Really does help without becoming so bureaucratic in nature.
If I may, Mr. Smith, let me ask a question now. Why did you find it necessary to make the change now? What were you seeing? Or were you seeing anything at all?
Well, I think our parents in the upper grades were confused that spirit wear and uniform were the same.
I see.
They are not the same. There is a very, very clear uniform policy that the administrators have been very, very supportive about. And they also understand that in order to have those spirit days, they should be days of excitement that generate something. And if you have them every day, you lose the flavor. The administrators are also very aware that spirit days and uniform policies have to be announced more than just at the beginning of the year. Mm-hmm. So they will come back at the beginning of the second quarter to reiterate that this is still a uniform and this is still how the spirit wear is worn.
Thank you.
Madam President, I think it should be noted that we did vote on a uniform policy at the last board meeting, so as not to confuse the viewers or the people who might watch to say that we did vote on a uniform policy. Why are we revisiting it? And I would think this to say that is to add this statement that you just read. The other thing I'd like to say is to keep in mind why the uniform policy originally came in. If you ever had went to the high school before uniform policy, people could come in the building and you didn't know who belonged there. You know, now I know we have added cameras and there's other additional security, but the uniform policy is also a security feature because the people who are in the building belong there.
Yes,
and not just, not so much for the junior high or for the elementary, but especially at the high school. That was an issue some years ago before the uniform policy was instituted. So making this statement is just to re-clarify the uniform policy that has already been voted on. Just this one paragraph is changing.
Madam President, I don't think we have a motion.
No.
I'd like to make the motion to approve the updated uniform policy, which includes the new paragraph that's in red in our draft.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And before we vote, I have one question for the superintendent, referring to the phrase district-approved spirit wear. When will a process be put in place to approve or disapprove candidates for Spirit Wear?
We're actually working on that now.
You're working on it now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Thank you. And thank you for your work on this.
I think it also should be made clear that the spirit wear, like you said, is not something that's going to be worn every day of the week, you know, for 4 or 5 weeks in a row. And if that is happening, then that would need to be addressed, you know, at that time with that school or that principal.
The field administrators who are the building principals will be an announcement that this is a spirit day or your spirit day is coming up, so that the parents are aware, and there will be some additional correspondence so that our families are aware, so that our kids are not caught off guard.
It's been motioned and seconded. Mr. Seymour, would you call the roll?
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye.
Mr. Pennicuick?
Aye.
Mr. Cleary?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Burns?
Aye. 7.04, overnight extended student trip proposal.
Madam President, I've seen several of these proposals, and I would have to say that the Latin American Arts Immersion in Miami, Florida is the best one so far. Absolutely. I'm going to read just a few of the destination highlights. They will go to the New World Symphony, the Miami Poetry Festival, side-by-side performance with Miami Music Project, Perez Art Music, Museum Miami, Windward Arts District, Miami Cuban Classical Ballet, Adrian Arsht Performing Arts Center, the Peacock House, a 100% sustainable home inspired by Spanish architecture and then the authentic Hispanic cuisine. These, you don't have to worry, will our kids learn something about this culture? It's right here. Some of the ones that I've looked at before, I wonder why the kids are even going on the trip. This one will be an example that we will use for other people. When you find something that's a foreign rubric language, you use the for. And so this one will be used to kind of showcase to other people setting up trips, this is how it should look.
As I read through that, I questioned how in the world they're going to fit it all in the days that are allotted. But so it sounds like a very full schedule.
Yes, absolutely. So it's the recommendation is to approve the overnight extended student trip proposal for Winton Woods High School Orchestra Latin American Arts Immersion, March the 18th to the 24th. One good thing that happened, and it lets you know that other eyes are watching, the original date was doing OGT. It was caught, and the date was changed. So there we go.
So moved.
Second. And if I could add another reaction, I was thrilled to see a project proposal coming through from one of our youngest teachers who is really catching fire with our students. And I'm so glad to support this.
It's been motioned. Motioned and seconded. Mr. Seymour, would you call the roll?
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye.
Mr. Pennicuick?
Aye.
Mr. Cleary?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Burns?
Aye. 7.05, resolution adopting a plan to make up missed instructional hours below the minimum required due to calamity.
You know, the state has now gone from days to hours. And so, with your okay, Madam President, I would like to read the resolution.
Please.
Resolution adopting plan to make up missed instructional hours below the minimum required due to calamity. Whereas the Winton Woods City School District Board of Education desires the students having learning opportunities when schools are closed for any of the reasons specified in Division B of Section 3317.01 of the Ohio Revised Code, and when such closures result in schools falling below the minimum hours, schools are required to be open for instructions with pupils in attendance under Section 3313.48, and whereas Section 3313.88 of the Ohio Revised Code authorizes the Board of Education to file a plan with the Ohio Department of Education by August 1st to provide online learning opportunities for students to make up the hours of missed instruction below the minimum required up to the equivalent of 3 scheduled days. Now, therefore, let it be it resolved that the Winton Woods City School District Board of Education hereby approves the following plan and authorizes its filing with the Ohio Department of Education. Plan for alternative makeup of missed hours below the minimum requirement. Pursuant of Ohio Revised Code, Section 3313.88 of the Board of Education of Winton Woods School District hereby authorizes the following plan to allow students of the district to access and complete classroom lessons in order to make up missed instructional hours below the minimum required under Section 33.13.48 because of the closing of schools for any of the reasons specified in Division B of Section 3317.01. This plan is submitted pursuant to approval of the Board of Education prior to August 1st. This plan includes the written consent of teachers, employee representatives as designated under Section B of 4117.04. Such consent is on file in the official file of the Board of Education and is hereby incorporated into this plan as if specifically written. No later than November 1st of 2014-15 school year, each classroom teacher shall develop a sufficient number of lessons for each course taught by the teacher, with such lessons requiring the judgment of the teacher, an amount of time equal to or greater than the amount of instructional time the student would receive for the equivalent of 3 days in such teacher's classes. And then it goes on to be another 10 pages.
Madam President, I move
Thank you,
to
Mr.
approve
Cleary.
resolution adopting the plan to make up missed instructional hours below the minimum required due to calamity as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, Mr. Seymour?
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye.
Mr. Pennicuick?
Aye.
Mr. Cleary?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Bruns?
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Board of Education reports, legislative report, Mr. Pennicuick?
Thank you very much, Madam President. My only topic tonight under the legislative report harkens back to a discussion that we had a couple of weeks ago regarding the brief article that we read in the June briefcase about a legislator trying to bring a discharge petition to, because of his desire regarding Common Core, to delete it, to delay it, to modify it, to meddle with it in some way. And the question was, is this still a serious effort? Was it ever a serious effort? And if we have strong feelings, do we need to take a position? I have had a fairly lengthy conversation with Dr. Damon Asbury, our chief legislative person, and he has been assured by the leadership of both the House and the Senate that that discharge petition is going no place. So I chose not to go to the work of working up a petition or resolution and bringing forward. That's probably not going to happen. So
That's good news.
that concludes my report.
Thank you. Great Oaks Career Technical Center report, Mr. Cleary.
Madam President, the board, our new superintendent with the Great Oaks, his name is Harry Schneider. He's replaced the old superintendent. He's roughly 1 month into the job. He's been out visiting all the school districts. In my conversation with him just last week, he had told me that of all the superintendents, he knows Mr. Smith the best because Mr. Smith has visited the Oaks program more than any other superintendent within our service area. I don't know how many times that is, but apparently you've been there more than once, which is probably more than some superintendents ever make it. You've been there 5 times.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's definitely noticed. It's noticed by their administrators as well as our students there. Senator Portman has been working with the Great Oaks to prepare a bipartisan legislation called Educating Tomorrow's Workforce Act to ensure that the needs of the 21st century workforce align with the quality programs available at career technical schools just like Great Oaks. His visit focused attention he was actually there for a few hours. He is really excited. Senator Portman is really excited about what he actually saw there at the Great Oaks. He had a comment that's kind of interesting. Senator Portman says, "The facts that the world has changed. Good careers are available in many fields without a college degree, but they require the right training, whether it's a career center or high school or adult education program, or in some other educational setting." That's something sometimes we forget. You know, we've tried to track all of our students straight to college, but there are great opportunities out there for our students with certifications and licensure. Madam President, I had one other item to report on. It's not part of the Great Oaks directly, but and this is hot off the press. Somebody sent me an email today. There's been a bench installed in honor of Cindy Emmert with the quote, "Always a warrior," over in the bricked area, the alumni area, outside
Very
the
nice.
sports arena.
The Hall of Fame wall.
The Hall of Fame wall.
Yes.
It's over in that
Very
area.
nice.
Oh, how appropriate.
I haven't seen it, but they sent me a picture of it, so I wanted to share that with the board and thank them as well.
Yes. Absolutely. Very nicely done. Thank you. Okay, 9.01, schedule of special meetings. Is there a schedule to be presented?
They're listed there for the September 15th, 20th, and November 17th for the purpose of a briefing and update by the superintendent at 4 p.m. on those dates.
And I'm sorry, can you give me, I'm running a little blind here. Can you give me the dates again?
September the 15th at 4,
I see it.
October the 20th at 4, November the 17th at 4.
Mr. Smith, you're giving the state of the school's address again at the beginning of the year as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President, I move that we schedule those special meetings for September, October, and November as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Mr. Seymour, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye.
Mr. Pennicott?
Aye.
Mr. Cleary?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Burns?
Aye. 9.02, appointment of delegate to the Ohio School Boards Association Capital Conference.
Is there a volunteer?
4.
There's a legislative agenda that the Ohio School Board Association puts together, and we have one voting share in that meeting. I've done it in the past, either as the alternate or the actual person. Dr. Weirs has done it before, Mr. Pennycuff. They send you a packet in the mail. You basically read through it. It's presented from a committee that actually comes up with what the agenda is. After you read it, when they mail it to you, if there's anything you have heartburn over, you need to respond to it immediately, because once you go to the meeting, it's too late. You can bring up that you don't like something or you'd like to see a change, but that won't happen. You've got to do it before the meeting.
And it's representative of only one person from our district?
It's one board member has a voting right from our district.
That's right.
Basically, it's one meeting, 2 meetings that you go to at the Ohio School Board Association event.
The conference in
capital
November?
The Capitol Conference, yes. You go to a briefing in the morning, and then you actually go to the meeting. And
About 2 o'clock in the afternoon
afternoon.
for an hour and a half or so.
Okay.
It's a great opportunity, and I say that with a straight face.
if you read the packet, it's always interesting to see what the agenda is.
Right.
Because it really opens up. I didn't realize the School Board Association touched so many different things.
I'll volunteer.
Oh, great. And we should have a backup.
I'll back her.
Backup. Okay.
Was that Mrs. Burns as
Yes.
the alternate?
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.
Fabulous. Okay. 9.03, resolution protecting Ohio's school children by preserving the thorough and efficient clause of the Ohio Constitution.
Madam President, we've discussed this at some length before. I'd like to read the resolution
Please.
into the record. This is entitled Protecting Ohio's School Children by Preserving the Thorough and Efficient Clause of the Ohio Constitution. Whereas over 160 years ago, Ohioans voted to provide school children with the right to a thorough and efficient system of common schools. And whereas this standard has served as a bright light standard over time to remind citizens and legislators alike as to their responsibilities to provide our children with quality public educational opportunities. And whereas that long-established principle is now being challenged by a proposal presented in the Education, Public Institutions, and Miscellaneous and Local Government Subcommittee of the Ohio Constitution Modernization Commission to remove the thorough and efficient clause from the Ohio Constitution. And whereas elimination of the clause would leave our Constitution with no standard to guide the General Assembly, and its elimination would weaken the checks and balances that now exist among the executive, legislative, and judicial branches of the state government. Excuse me. Now therefore be it resolved that the Winton Woods City District Board of Education hereby registers its strong support for retaining the thorough and efficient clause and affirms its adamant opposition to any attempt to remove the clause. And be it further resolved that the Ohio Constitutional Modernization Commission members be encouraged to consider only those amendments or changes that would serve to strengthen the range of educational opportunities available to Ohio's public school children. And be it further resolved that the treasurer be directed to spread this resolution upon the minutes of the Winton Woods City District Board of Education, and that copies of the resolution be forwarded to all members of the Ohio Constitutional Modernization Commission, all members of the Ohio General Assembly, the State Board of Education, and to the Governor of the State of Ohio. Madam President, I move the adoption of this resolution.
I'll second.
Any questions or comments on this? It's been in much discussion. Thank you, sir. Mr. Seymour, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye.
Mr. Pennicott?
Aye.
Mr. Cleary?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Burns?
Aye.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you. 10.01 comments. Let me go down the row so we don't all run over each other. Mr. Pennicott, do you have any?
Just a quick observation. I was thinking as we were talking about the effort to delay Common Core a few minutes ago, the school year has already started. If you look at all the activity going on in the parking lot this afternoon and across the way at the athletic field, the school year is underway, and here it is July. So it's exciting.
It is. Yeah, football season's coming. I'm pretty excited about that. Anything from you, Mr. Cleary?
Not this evening.
Dr. Johnson, anything from you?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment, or rather a question about College and Career Day. I'm not sure when it's on the schedule or if it's on the schedule. I've had several people approach asking about when the career day would be, and when I called, there was no, nobody knew exactly when it was. So that's something that I think that we need to look into, as Tim kind of pointed out with having the conversation with the superintendent from the Great Oaks, that there are different paths for our students, and so we need to make sure that that's on the calendar. If it's not, that's something that we need to consider. And I don't know if it can be married with the career day, can be married with college. I know that we do something with college and career, or have a day by itself. So I'd like to bring that. Mr. Willard mentioned the religious instruction credit. I'd just like to encourage the board to consider that. I think that everybody has different paths in life, and I don't think, I think if we consider it, it'd have to be, we'd have to look at the accreditation, or what is the accreditation of the organization that's doing it, just as we're accredited, because we want to be able to give the credit according to that. So I'd like to encourage the board to do that. And the last thing I'd like to speak on is at the last board meeting, when a presentation was made with regards to the AGS program, I had several people come back to me and say that they were pretty much offended that the comment was made that parents only needed to be committed to get their students into the AGS program, whereas 80% of the students are not in the program. And I just wanted to be clear that as far as I'm concerned, wasn't just a matter of commitment. There was only a certain amount of space that was available, but the comment was made by someone that there was that you just had to show up and be committed. And I think it's an insult to our parents to say that if they're not in this program, that they're not committed to their child's education. There's only space for 20%. or 23% or whatever the number is. It's a small space for a number of students. And so I think that we need to be careful in our wording when we say that. And you can't, consider parents that are not in the program not committed to their students' education. I think every parent that sends their kid to school every day is committed to them getting an education. And so, we have to be careful with our addressing that. So that was the three things.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. That's a good word, good counsel. Thank you. Ms. Miranda, anything?
Nothing this evening, Madam President.
Okay. One thing I have is that Ms. Miranda and I will meet with Forest Park City Council on this Thursday, the 31st at 6:30 in Forest Park Council Chambers. I have received some questions and some topics that you would like for us to make sure that we cover and discuss with them. If there are anything further that either comes from tonight or something that you think of in the middle of the night tonight, make sure that we have it by close of business tomorrow, and then we can represent you well in the meeting. Okay, comments to the board from the associations. Someone present from WWTA?
Hi.
Hi.
Yes, Michelle Breck. I just wanted to welcome.
Would you like to
all-
take the podium?
No, thank you. I just want to welcome all the new teachers. We look forward to getting to know them and making them feel at home. We're excited, all of us veteran teachers are excited about the new school year and all the new students and challenges. And we're excited to meet the new parents and to work collaboratively with with administrators and parents as always.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is anyone here to represent OPSI?
Yes, we have nothing to say.
All right. Well, hi, Mr. Turner. Glad to see you. Thank you. All right. Is there a need, board, to go into executive session?
Madam President, Board, there is a need for an executive session this evening to discuss a matter involving evaluation of performance.
Thank you.
Second the motion.
Thank you. Mr. Seymour?
Mrs. Miranda?
Aye.
Mr. Pennicott?
Aye.
Mr. Cleary?
Aye.
Dr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mrs. Burns?
Aye. Thank you. As we do not anticipate having any business coming out of executive session, you do not need to stay until the wee hours because that's usually how long it takes us.